Oh, hey there guys. Eric back with another PrizePicks video. Let's go ahead and get into it. So as you guys could obviously tell, in a new setup here. It's going to be a work in progress for kind of the background setup and whatnot, but it's something that I'm kind of excited to get into. I think it'll lead to more content. But I did say goodbye to the beautiful background that was 9 to 5 Studios. We're going to be hopefully making it bigger and better here shortly. I do just real quickly want to get into a recap of yesterday's slate. So yesterday was very twofold. Both the MLB props that I touched on hit, okay? So just right there, it was nice. And then the two stacks that I mentioned for NBA DFS did not hit. So 2 for 4 on the day. And you guys know I don't really like to bring up results as a whole unless it's like a learning experience or a teaching moment. But I think that's exactly what yesterday's slate presents. So if we just go ahead and look at the games yesterday, we can see both of them were blowout. And so that was the whole point of me kind of trying to stack. Now, yes, those were stacks in which, has benefited us a bunch already. They're on a 4 for 4 slip and a 5 for 5 slip over the past week. And so I was perfectly fine rolling with those guys based off of the expectations Vegas had for those games. And that's why I specifically called out those as stacked, because if the game does not go as expected, they're not going to hit. If the game does go as expected, they're more likely to hit. And that's kind of why I wanted to make that clear distinction of why I like stacking, especially for the playoffs, because we just don't have the plethora of PrizePicks props that we would have typically. And that's why those players that we have been on have been successful for us over the past week and a half now, or 2 weeks, I guess, for the full series. The worry, and I mentioned it, the worry with those two stacks is that, we have been on these guys a lot. Eventually, they're just going to have a poor game. But that's also why I wanted to stack it, because if they didn't have a poor game, if the streak continued, well, then obviously they're a lot more likely to hit. Thankfully, though, those two MLB props hit for us. And so hopefully you guys were able to use those. Hopefully you guys just didn't skip to the end and kind of look at the graphic. Hopefully you actually watched the video and took in the information. Let's go ahead and get into the picks for today. So why do I always start out with looking at the props for the day? Well, that is going to be our expectation for how the games are going to play out. Thus, we know how to go about stacking those teams. Now, obviously, yesterday that didn't work. Games were blowouts and Vegas was wrong. More times than not, Vegas is going to be correct. And personally, guys, I do not have a good feel for the Miami versus Knicks games. I feel like they've just been propped up too much. And I'm more comfortable betting the overs. And so that's probably just going to be a game that I don't want to touch. Now, Vegas is highly suggesting, and I start to worry about blowouts at 7.5 points. Vegas is suggesting that this game does have the potential to be a blowout in favor of the Warriors. And that's kind of how I'm going to go about approaching today's game. And so just looking at it right now, we'll start with the Miami game. So Jimmy Butler is someone that I think people are going to continue to roll with. I'm kind of fine with that. That's just one that I haven't felt like I have been able to properly gauge. I'm staying away from that. If I were to make a bet, it'd probably be on Jalen Brunson. But even the Jalen Brunson prop feels a little bit too thin, especially when we look at compared to underdog. In previous slates, we saw some bigger discrepancies for Jalen Brunson. His fantasy score difference is not that much. Now, obviously, you'd rather make the prop bet on underdog where it's 0.5 difference, not huge, but could be enough. That just feels too thin. And for what it's worth, if you think Jimmy Butler has continued to play well, like he has, you'd want to make that prop bet on underdog where we're getting about a 1 point prop difference between underdog and PrizePicks. To me, that's kind of the NBA slate that we have today, is maybe attacking these discrepancies that we have between PrizePicks and underdog. Looking at the Miami game, the best prop that we are getting is going to be Bam block shots. Okay, 0.5. That's fair at about 54%. It's okay. It just feels like these are all a little bit too thin. And now just looking at Julius Randle as a whole as well, he is someone that desperately needs to have a good game. He has been struggling, okay? And it's more or less looks like it's been an effort. It's weird. There's highlights going around social media just showing him not closing out on shot attempts and just not hustling back on defense. Yeah, it's tough to win when you got a player doing that. But let's look at Julius Randle here. And I want to point out this, and this is what is kind of mind-boggling and annoying about Julius Randle. The Vegas line, the average Vegas line, if we took that and put it into the formula for fantasy point, they would be suggesting that he would score 43.29 fantasy points. Now, if we just look at his projection for the day based off of his average minutes and based off of his season average, it would suggest that he should score 43.49 points. And then we see kind of a big difference between PrizePicks and underdog. It's really up to you guys what you want to do with that information. I just want to call that out, that we are getting a big difference in terms of projection data And Vegas does have that basically as a push. I want to make that clear as well. But we have a big difference between projection data and what the PrizePicks lines have. If you think he's going to continue to struggle, obviously you'd rather make that bet, the under bet on underdog. But that's going to be it for that game. I don't really like it too much. So now we get into the Warriors versus Lakers game. And I want to point this out that the game is a 7-point spread. I want to call that out again because that is kind of dictating what props I'm going to go ahead and make. And the thing that I like about the Warriors today is that they shot the ball terribly and it was still like a one possession game. Curry went 3 for 14, 12 for 30 on the day, just terrible. And I mean, he still went off like 75 fantasy points. That's just crazy in itself. Then you look at Klay as well. Klay has really shot the ball terribly in this series besides one game. You would expect him in a game that is a 7-point spread, a game that Vegas is suggesting that they are going to win and it has the potential to be a blowout. That would mean someone like Klay and Curry are both shooting the basketball well. Klay has went 3 for 11, 5 for 14, 11 for 18, that was good, and 9 for 25. Really, this whole playoffs, he hasn't shot the ball extremely well. The Kings, he had some, pretty average games, but against the Lakers thus far, just hasn't been playing well. I kind of expect that to get corrected tonight. And so if those two players, obviously those two studs, are shooting the basketball better, then I think that Draymond Green for over assists might be the way to go. We can see last game 7 assists. We can see on the season averages 6.9. And we can see just looking at this, guys, that the average sportsbook line actually has the assist prop set at 7.5. Now they are heavily favoring the under in that regard. And so when we adjust it for the line being at 7, the over percent only has about a 48% chance to hit. And so with the over being plus 110 on average across the sportsbooks, the bet that you would want to make is actually going to be on the sportsbook. Okay, that's where you'd want to make that bet. Someone asked a question yesterday, well, if you like the Al Horford prop, and Al Horford going 0 for 7, if you would have told me he would have shot 7 threes, I would have been like, yes, we are hammering. They were open. That was just terrible shooting. Anyways, someone asked in the comment section, well, if you like the Horford prop, wouldn't that be a better prop on one of the sportsbooks? Yes. This is for you guys to use the information how you see fit. Yesterday, with it being tacos, the information is a little bit different because we're trying to find the best props or maybe the best stacks to go with those tacos, where any other day is more or less, it's more finding the best props that we can make on PrizePicks to game their game. So yes, this would be a better prop to make on one of the sports. But to me, there is some correlation there. Like if he does get over 7 assists, that means Klay or Curry are going off and shooting the basketball extremely well. There is a little bit of a stacking opportunity there. But kind of my golden rule with the Warriors is that it's just difficult to figure them out as a team. Like we never know for sure if it's going to be Curry going off now in kind of a game that they need to win. I expect Curry to go off, but it could be Klay that's just catches fire, right? Like they're just difficult because they have 4 players that can go out and score. Not really so much Jordan Poole right now. He's been cheeks lately, so maybe just 3 with Wiggins, but obviously Draymond Green can do stuff. It'll be interesting to see if Gary Payton or Dante DiVincenzo get minutes, but for the most part, that's my long way of saying I don't love chasing the Warriors too much, but like let's just examine which props would be the best ones we can make. We can see Klay maybe potentially you could do over points and rebounds on underdog. If you think Klay is going to struggle today, then you'd want to bet the under on underdog for 29.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Like that's a big difference. And we can see on PrizePicks, they have it set at 28.5. So that could be a prop that you make to bet the over there. Andrew Wiggins, guys, this is the big prop line difference. The fantasy score for Andrew Wiggins on underdog, 32.75. On PrizePicks, 31. That is a big difference. That is typically a difference that we can take advantage of. And it's such a big difference that I could maybe potentially see a situation where we're hedging here, where we're betting the under on underdog and we're betting the over on prize. That's really up to you guys. But that's a big difference. And I just want to call that out. And then lastly, a strange thing that happened was Gary Payton getting the start last game. Over, well, basically Kevin Looney, but over JaMychal Green. Be interesting to see if he starts again. I could maybe see Dante DiVincenzo getting more minutes tonight. Really, who's ever starting, and if we get a prop for them, Gary Payton or Dante DiVincenzo, there is probably something there that we could bet with them. They are decent NBA players. When they get the minutes, they can produce. Now, the reason I'm bringing up Gary Payton is not really for PrizePicks. It's more for D'Angelo Russell. My question is, and I don't think it's true, did Gary Payton getting minutes really changed Russell's shot? Because he had a terrible night shooting 1 for 10. Okay, just a really bad game. It's tough to say. He still got the minutes, still shot the ball a lot. I mean, he shot 10 times and he made 1 basket. We know he is someone that if he gets hot, he will just go out and shoot a lot. So you could potentially just bet based off the bounce back. And in that regard, it would just be points. If he goes, 5 for 10 and maybe 2 of those are threes, he can get there. It's just he had such a terrible night shooting the previous night that you could just hedge and go the other way. And then let's just go ahead and examine the best bets that we are getting on the day. Okay. So yes, the Bam prop, that's probably going to be bumped probably by the time I even put this video out. We got Kevin Gossman over 6.5 strikeouts, projected to get 6.5, so probably not that much there. Vegas is saying it has about a 53.6% chance to hit. You know, if you want to roll with that, you can. But we can see the lines are extremely tight today on PrizePicks. And so just looking at really the best props that we are getting on the day, we can actually see Austin Reeves is a decent one for fantasy points. Average sportsbook line has it set at about 29 for him. PrizePicks has it set at 25.5. It's projected to get 27. Could roll with that. Obviously, Julius Randle should have a good game. You could roll with that. Clayton Kershaw, this is extremely interesting here for pitcher fantasy score. It's an extremely high number as well. He basically needs to get a quality start and also a win in order for that prop to hit. Vegas is suggesting that it will, though. I'm assuming that because this is at 49, he is projected, Vegas is favoring him to get a win. That's kind of the difference in pitching fantasy score, is that if they're not favored to get a win, they're typically never going to see the Vegas line be over. And so that's probably why the projection is a little bit lower, but not a terrible one there. Shoot. Like Bryce Harper for hitting fantasy score over 7.5. That's decent, projected at 10.8. Average sportsbook line has set at 8.47. Bam for over 33.5 fantasy points. I might just have to make that as part of the bet for today. We see the prop line difference there. That might just be the move today. Like I mentioned earlier, the lines are just really tight right now. And then obviously just point out the Wiggins one again, 1.75 difference. You know, maybe we bet the over on PrizePicks just because that's a big difference. Project to get 32.5, so it's tight. And then Vegas line has it set at 33, so like an okay prop. And here's the thing about the Clayton Kershaw prop, just real quick. Like if we're doing the over fantasy score, like we could almost just do the unders for earned runs allowed, hits allowed instead, because that all goes into the pitching fantasy score, and those are obviously going to be a lot easier to hit. Same thing would go for pitcher strikeouts as well. Like you bet the over there. Like that all correlates well with the fantasy score. And then strangely enough, I want to point this out as well. Like this is a bet that I'm making on Underdog and I have made already. Willy Adames over 0.5 hits, projected to get 0.81. So, you know, slightly favoring the over there. The over odds are just heavily favored. 55% chance for that one to hit, based off the odds that are coming in across the sportsbooks right now. Obviously, he's going against Kershaw, so we don't like that. So kind of an interesting one there. And then you see Taylor as well, another Brewer. So maybe on Underdog, we do over hits for those two, and then we could kind of hedge it on PrizePicks. All right, so just to summarize, my two favorite bets for the day are going to be two separate ones, and I apologize for this. That's just the slate that we have. I always mention this, like I value you guys' bankroll, and obviously a lot of PrizePicks and Underdog. Betting is just bankroll management. To me, the best bet that we're getting on the board today is going to be Bam over 33.5 fantasy points as it sits right now. Now, obviously, I went through a lot today. If you guys want to tack on another bet with that you felt was strong, go ahead and do that. Then on PrizePicks or on Underdog here, I actually don't mind Willy Adames for over hits. We can see that is just a prop that is highly expected to hit. So that's one that we can make there. All right, that's going to be all I have for you guys for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. If you did, you know what to do. Give that like and subscribe. Let's have a good slate. And as always, guys, let's keep cashing.